Andy Mitten is with us. Andy, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm okay, thank you.
The end of an era as the players' videos, tributes are released. And look, clubs have to do this to... maybe they don't have to do it, but they do it. So how is the Manchester United fan base reflecting on the end of Jesse Lingard at United and the end of Paul Pogba at United in particular?
Most of them are glad that those two players are leaving the club. We did a poll on United We Stand a few weeks ago about Paul Pogba, and the question was a simple one. Would you like him to stay or go? And 95% said go. With Jesse Lingard, I think you'd get different numbers, but the last season didn't work for him, for the club. He had a very good loan spell at West Ham. In hindsight, it's easy to say that. He should have been sold a year ago, because he's clearly a player who can stand out for a team in the top half of the Premier League. Manchester United have lost him for nothing, and Paul Pogba lost him for nothing for the second time in his career. So it doesn't reflect well on Manchester United's transfer business at all. And I think there's a feeling that the messages yesterday, they didn't strike a chord with me in the slightest. I thought the tone was completely wrong. I think that calling him once a red, always a red, as the club's official website did. Well, he's chosen to leave the club twice. And I know that they can't come out and say, this has been an almighty waste of money. And Paul Pogba has completely underwhelmed since his world transfer record. Nor can they say there are mitigating circumstances because we keep sacking managers. But that's about the measure of it. Huge disappointment. It's not all on him, but some part of it is on him.
Yeah.
And with Jesse, I'm talking in similar about both of them. Manchester United have not won a trophy for 5 years.
I mean, I would say that a large part of it is on him, but equally, the problem is that the company and the football are so different. The company is well run. They generate massive amounts of money that allows them to buy these players, but the wrong people have been making the decisions about which players to sign. And then it seems like really the wrong people have been making the decisions about what style to play and how to accommodate them over the last number of years. Talking to Manchester United fans over the last week, they seem at least hopeful about the fact that the right man is now in charge of the football and on the pitch. But everybody who I talked to, every single one of them was like, they just have to get the recruitment right, and there've been no signs of their ability to do that.
Yeah, I think both of those are fair comments from Paul Pogba's perspective. The dream he was sold coming back to Manchester United didn't materialise, and it is more on him than anybody else. But it's not just on him. And the recruitment, the players who were brought in around him, every one of them welcomed in, by the way, by fans like me, cheering in the likes of Bastian Schweinsteiger. He came a year before Paul Pogba, Angel Di Maria, Radamel Falcao, Alexis Sanchez. I could probably pick up 15 to 20 names. The recruitment has been atrocious, and United need to do something differently. And under the new manager, I think he'd be cut quite a lot of slack to do things differently. He will have the final say. All the managers have had the final say as well. But he's got a huge job. He's got a very difficult job. I think what you're seeing now is every departure being waved out the door. Every arrival will be waved in the door. Football fans are predisposed to hope for a brighter future, to invest in a brighter future. You see these gladiatorial, idealised images of Erik Ten Hag mastering over everything he surveys. I'd love that to be the truth, but I can just see more difficult times ahead. I think United have got to improve. I'm pretty optimistic that United will improve. It can't be as bad as it was this season, last season. And new players will come in, and more players will leave this month. More staff will leave before the end of this month. So there's a lot of changes going on there. And there needs to be, because it is a football club which has failed where it matters most. On the pitch, it's all right bringing the money in off the pitch and being commercially astute. And United have spent a lot of money, but so much of it has been wasted. United's wage bill is significantly higher than Liverpool's. You've got players like Anthony Martial earning more money than Mohamed Salah. And you can always pick at one problem area of any football club. Real Madrid are the European champions, and they had a massive issue with Gareth Bale's wages. The problem at United is it's 5, 6, 7 different players.
And it's just a massive job. Like, when I'm thinking about it, like, he's coming in to a club that needs a lot of restructuring, needs to be rebuilt, really. You have these players that are there that aren't really on form, superstar players not really on form. Then you're bringing these new players in. Then, as you were saying as well, there's players coming, or there's staff coming and going. How does he manage all that in the dressing room?
He's got a difficult job. He had a difficult job when he went to Ajax. And a lot of people were doubtful of him when he went there. He's got a very clear philosophy of what he wants. I've spoken to a couple of the United players. They want that. They want to hear that from the new manager. Ralf Rangnick didn't work as a manager at all. And nobody wanted that to be the case. The players wanted it to work. The manager wanted it to work, but it just didn't work. So you'll get some United fans saying, get rid of every player, play the kids. It's not going to be as drastic as that. You'll see a lot of players leave this summer partly because they're out of contract, which helps the club because they earn so much money. It's difficult to get rid of them while they're still under contract. And you'll see players come in still under a slight cloud of the finances being affected by COVID. If United can get any money from sales, that will help the club's position. But even there, you had Anthony Martial go to Seville. If he'd done well in La Liga, he would have a pretty significant resale value. There'd be demand for him, but he didn't. He scored 1 goal. He was a complete flop there. So that's another player who we're looking at through a negative light because so much around him is negative. Ten Hag got a tough job. He'll have good coaches around him. I think that most United fans are really welcoming of his appointment, as they were with Jose Mourinho, as they were when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signed the contract after that first flush of a good run, as they were with Louis van Gaal as well. So excuse me for being a little bit circumspect, especially when rivals are so good. Liverpool, Manchester City, they're really good at the moment. But I do believe Manchester United will improve.
Martial's an interesting case in point because obviously he's back, or will be back at the club unless they find another willing partner to take on a portion of his wages. Is there any prospect that Ten Hag can turn him into a player? Is there any prospect that Ten Hag can turn Donny van de Beek into a player? And actually what we'll see is that players who were previously essentially worthless to the club in terms of output can get something from them as a transitional period until he actually gets the players he wants in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's players there whose stock is so low, but they've not just become failures. They've just had a bad season in some cases. And with a better coach and with more confidence, you can have an upward spiral in the same way that United have suffered from a downward spiral. I'm sure that Ten Hag will see something in some of those players where he coaches them in a slightly different way. He might use them in a different way in terms of their position. You've got other players like Rafael Varane, Jadon Sancho, top players who had pretty mediocre first seasons. They deserve a little bit of time to settle in, I think. But now it's the second season. Now they're expected to shine. And I think they will do. Marcus Rashford, he's not just become a terrible player, even though he's not played well for a long time. And there's a talent there. It's just got to be found again. And that's the manager's job to do that. And I think he's good at working with young players. He proved that at Ajax. And he's saying the right things, but then Ralf Rangnick said the right things when he first came in. I think there'll be a patience to support him. They know that United are not going to be top of the league or unlikely to be top of the league and winning the title next season. Fans just need to see more evidence of improvement, of signings who come in and don't get worse, because that keeps on happening. You get world-class players coming to Manchester United and looking significantly worse within a year or two. That's really worrying that continues to happen.
It seems like they need to find a system and a style that suits them all, and that's what I'm a little bit afraid of. Like as you spoke about, Andy, the type of the style that Ten Hag had at Ajax, like it's sort of that high intensity. So is that what he's going to bring to Man United? And do the players that are currently there, the likes of Ronaldo, do they fit that style, if that is what he brings in?
I don't think Ronaldo does. I also think that at Ajax you have players who've been in a system since they're children, so they've grown up playing that way, similar to Barcelona and how their players have worked. So you can't just turn that round or turn it on in a pre-season. He'll have to make tweaks, and I'm told that he'll have players doing repetitions in training again and again and again until he drives them mad, until he gets what he wants from them. And systems, philosophies, we heard this with Louis van Gaal. He had a very clear philosophy in his mind. He felt ultimately that he didn't have the players to carry it through, despite bringing a lot of players through. So it's not going to be easy. And United need a bit of luck as well. Their confidence needs picking up off the floor. The end of this season was so bad. 6 consecutive away defeats. This is Manchester United. 6 consecutive away defeats. 2 goals scored, 17 goals conceded. 4-0 at Brighton. Hammered home and away by Liverpool. So it can't be any worse. The bar is so low at the moment that it has to be raised. And it will be raised, I'm sure of that. But I don't think United are going to suddenly turn into title contenders. But you know what football fans are like? You know what I'm like? 6 games in, everything's looking good. People will be like, well, hey, this is great. This new man's great. This is the man. You want to believe you invest hope into a brighter future. And there are good players there. There are really, really good players there who haven't looked like good players. Harry Maguire is the captain. He's a good defender. He's openly ridiculed on social media. Up until May 2020, he was considered by most fans as being a very good defender for Manchester United. Not all fans. Some fans are never, ever happy. Some fans moan after winning the treble. But he was a good defender up until just over a year ago.
And look, that's the opportunity for Ten Hag, is to get something out of those players, like improve their fitness straight away, which means they run more, and so therefore the pressing game actually makes some sense, and get Bruno's confidence back, and all of a sudden you've got a world-class player in your team again. So there are quick wins that he can do that I guess when you're making the case as a Manchester United fan for hope, that's the stuff that you think he can influence. The other thing that needs to influence is comings and goings, and we see a lot of the players going at the moment. Who is coming in? What is realistic? Because he's been linked with everybody, all his former players, all his current players. If you were to place an imaginary bet, what do you think is likely in terms of the number of players coming in and the quality of players coming in?
I would say 3, 4, dependent on who leaves the club, dependent on the money United raise on selling players. There are a dozen players on United's radar at the moment. You may have read about them. It's not unusual for Manchester United to be linked with speculative transfer targets, and the interest in people like Frenkie de Jong is genuine. But just because United want a player doesn't mean that player is going to sign for Manchester United, is going to sign not to play Champions League football, is going to sign to play at a club which has consistently underachieved. That said, it's still a very attractive club to a lot of players. So I know some really, really big names who've been offered to Manchester United by their agents. And I think in the past, the club might have been blinded by the names and the status, but now it's on the manager. He's got his clear ideas. He's the one who should make all of these decisions. He shouldn't be listening to fans saying, get him, get him. He's the one who will thrive or lose his job if the players do not perform for him. There's a budget there. There's a decent budget to buy players. The market is not as high as it was before COVID. United can pay top dollar. There's players leaving like Edinson Cavani, like Pogba, like Lingard, who are on astronomical amounts. And Cavani's another one. Great player, great career, but such a disappointment last season. Huge, huge disappointment that it was unavailable for so many matches. And if you're carrying one player, like Madrid carried Gareth Bale, you get away with it. But if that's happening to 3, 4, 5 players, your ship starts to sink. And that's what happened with Manchester United. So many injuries. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had pretty good luck with injuries, actually. But in the last year, it's been much more of a worry. So players will come in. There's this clamour to sign players now. And I get that, because the idea of business being done early is a good one. And I think United fans are still haunted by the summer of 2013, where Marouane Fellaini ended up coming in 2 minutes before midnight, when Tony Kroos had agreed to join Manchester United under David Moyes for the following year, when other players had agreed to come as well, and just United made a complete mess of it. So fans are pretty circumspect, but I know that players going back to February and March were saying to the club, yeah, we're interested in joining, but tell us who the manager's going to be. So the managers came in, the managers sorted. So that's good. United are not scratching around for a manager now. And that's happened in the past. You know, in 1981, 3 different managers rejected Manchester United before Ron Atkinson took the job. So they've got Ten Hag in. That was the manager who United wanted. He's really set about his business. He's doing lots behind the scenes, been lots of meetings in Manchester, in London, in Amsterdam as well. Lots of names mentioned. Some of them have been nowhere near what you've read in the media, which may surprise people. Some of them are all over the media. Some of them are being pushed by their agents who want their players to be linked with Manchester United, because there's very little downside to that.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.